Welcome back to our deep dive into Dante's Inferno. When we left off, Dante and Virgil were tiptoeing out of that terrifying wood of the suicides.
Right.
It was the second ring of the seventh circle of hell and all about violence against oneself. But things shift dramatically as we get into Canto 14. It opens with love, which in gentle heart is quickly learned. But there's nothing gentle about where we're headed.
No, not at all. Dante uses that opening line, I think, to really kind of highlight the stark contrast of where we're going, because we're about to enter the third ring of the seventh circle, a place where love seems impossible.
So this is where the souls who committed violence against God are punished.
The blasphemers.
So paint us a picture. What's the scene like in this particular corner of hell?
Picture this: a vast, desolate plain of burning sand. It's not just hot sand. Dante describes dilated flakes of fire raining down from the sky, like a fiery blizzard.
Oh, that sounds miserable.
No plants, no shade, just endless torment.
So basically a beach vacation from your nightmares.
Right.
But why burning sand? What's the connection to blasphemy?
Well, you have to remember the concept of contrapasso. In Dante's hell, the punishment always fits the crime. So in this case, the burning sand represents God's wrath, the burning anger directed at those who dared to defy him.
And it gets even more vivid when Dante throws in a comparison to Alexander the Great. Now, that's not a name I expected to pop up in hell.
It is kind of a surprising detail. Dante describes the fiery rain as being so intense that it reminded him of a story about Alexander the Great in India. Apparently, Alexander's army encountered these flaming projectiles falling from the sky, and to put out the flames, his soldiers had to literally trample the ground.
That's an intense image.
And that's the point. Dante is using this simile to emphasize just how relentless and intense the fiery rain is in this circle of hell.
It's not just physical punishment, it's psychological as well.
The sense of hopelessness, the constant struggle, you know that there's no escape.
Now, speaking of figures who refuse to back down, even in the face of eternal damnation, Dante and Virgil encounter someone remarkable in this fiery wasteland, a giant named Capaneus. So who is this Capaneus, and why is he so important?
Well, in life, was one of the 7 kings who besieged Thebes. He was notorious for his arrogance and blasphemy. He openly defied the gods, even claiming that Zeus himself couldn't stop him.
I'm guessing that didn't end well for Capaneus.
As the myth goes, Zeus struck him down with a thunderbolt for his hubris. Even in death, Capaneus hasn't learned his lesson. Dante finds him sprawled on the burning sand, seemingly unfazed by the flames.
Hold on, he's literally being rained on by fire, but he's just chilling.
It's not about physical endurance, it's about his mental state. Capaneus is still consumed by the same rage and defiance that defined him in life. In fact, he even boasts to Dante and Virgil, "Such as I was when living, dead such now I am."
So even in hell, he's unrepentant.
Completely. And that's, again, where that concept of contrapasso comes in. Capaneus' punishment is a direct reflection of his sin. His refusal to repent, his stubborn pride, it becomes his eternal torment.
Man, talk about a cautionary tale. But Dante and Virgil don't linger too long in Capaneus' company. They press on and soon come across another striking feature of this infernal landscape, a river of boiling blood.
Yes, the Phlegethon,
Okay, this is intense.
one of the major rivers of hell.
This is no ordinary river.
A churning torrent of blood, bubbling, steaming, and carrying with it the souls of those who are violent in life.
Well, where does this river of blood even come from?
That is a great question. And this is one of those moments where Dante's imagination just takes flight.
I'm on the edge of my seat. Tell me, where does the Phlegethon originate?
Picture this: a colossal statue hidden within Mount Ida on the island of Crete, called the Old Man of Crete. And it's unlike anything you've ever imagined.
Okay, I'm intrigued. A giant statue hidden in a mountain. What's so special about this old man?
Well, first, let's talk about what it's made of. It has a head of gold, a chest and arms of silver, middle of brass, legs of iron, and get this, its right foot is made of clay.
That's quite a mix of metals. It sounds more like a recycling bin than a statue, but I'm guessing there's a deeper meaning here.
The statue is an allegory for the decline of humanity. It represents the progression from a golden age of innocence and virtue to an age of iron and corruption. The clay foot symbolizes the fragility and instability of human civilization.
So we've got this giant crumbling statue representing humanity's fall from grace. What does this have to do with a river of boiling blood in hell?
Well, here's where it gets really mind-blowing. Tears flow from cracks in the statue, except for the golden head, which remains unmarred. And those tears, believe it or not, create the rivers of hell.
Hold on, you're telling me that all the rivers in hell are made from the tears of a giant statue? That's wild, but it's also incredibly poetic.
It goes beyond just being a striking image, though. Think about the symbolism. The tears represent the cumulative suffering and sorrow of humanity throughout history. It suggests that we are, in a sense, creating our own hell through our actions.
So each river, like the phlegathon, is essentially a channel for all that pain and anguish.
Exactly. And it's worth noting that the Old Man of Crete isn't facing just any direction. He faces Damietta in Egypt with his back turned towards Rome.
Egypt and Rome. What's the significance of that?
Well, remember, Dante was writing during a time of great political and religious upheaval. He saw both the Islamic world, represented by Damietta, and the Christian world, represented by Rome, as being corrupted by greed and ambition.
So the Old Man of Crete, weeping over the state of humanity, is turning his back on both of these empires. That's a pretty bold statement.
Dante is suggesting that true virtue and justice aren't found in worldly power or institutions, but in something higher, something beyond the reach of human corruption.
I'm starting to get a sense of just how layered and complex Dante's vision of hell really is.
It is. He's weaving together mythology, history, theology, and even contemporary politics into this intricate tapestry.
And it's all connected by these rivers, these channels of sorrow flowing from a single source, the tears of the Old Man of Crete. Any other notable rivers that originate from the statue?
The tears create 4 major rivers of hell. We have the Acheron, which forms the boundary of hell, the Styx, the river of hatred, the Phlegathon, which I've already seen, and finally, the Cocytus, the frozen lake in the 9th circle where Satan himself is imprisoned.
4 rivers, each representing different aspects of sin and punishment. Dante uses this image to create a sense of interconnectedness throughout hell.
And as we continue to explore this canto, it's worth keeping in mind that this interconnectedness isn't just geographical, it's also thematic. These rivers flowing from the tears of humanity symbolize the ripple effects of our actions, how our choices create consequences that extend far beyond ourselves.
It's a reminder that we're all connected, even in hell. But before we move on, I have one more question about the Old Man of Crete. You mentioned that he has a head of gold, but it's the only part of him that doesn't weep. What's the significance of that?
That's an excellent question. That golden head, in contrast to the rest of the decaying body, likely represents the original purity and potential of humanity, the divine spark that remains, even as we succumb to sin and corruption.
So even in this vision of decline and sorrow, there's a glimmer of hope, a reminder of our inherent goodness.
A reminder that redemption is always possible, even for those who seem lost.
That's a powerful thought to hold on to as we continue our descent into the Inferno. Speaking of which, there's one more detail from this canto that I found particularly intriguing. It has to do with the river Lethe.
The river of forgetfulness, famously associated with the underworld.
Right. But here's the thing. Dante reveals that Lethe is actually not in hell.
That's right.
Virgil, Dante's guide, makes it very clear that Lethe is not within this hollow. He says it exists in a place where the spirits go to leave themselves when their repented guilt is removed. So it's not in hell. Where could it possibly be?
Well, that is a question we'll have to explore further as Dante's journey continues. But this little detail has huge implications. It hints at the possibility of redemption, of a path beyond the suffering and torment of hell.
So even as Dante descends deeper into the Inferno, he's also planting these seeds of hope, pointing towards a realm beyond punishment, a realm of healing and forgiveness.
There's always a glimmer of light, a possibility of transcendence.
It's a message that resonates deeply, even centuries after Dante wrote the Inferno. It reminds us that no matter how far we stray, no matter how lost we may feel, there's always a chance for redemption, a path back to wholeness.
And as we delve further into the Inferno, we'll see that theme of redemption emerge even more clearly.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Canto 14, what are some of the key takeaways for our listeners?
Well, I think there are a couple crucial themes that emerge from this canto.
There's this incredible image of the Old Man of Crete, weeping tears that form the rivers of hell. It's such a powerful reminder that we are, in a sense, responsible for the state of the world, that our actions have ripple effects that extend far beyond ourselves.
And I think this image also kind of hints at the possibility of redemption. The idea that even in the midst of suffering, there's still potential for healing and transformation. Even the golden head of the Old Man of Crete, the unmarred source of those sorrowful tears, it offers us just a glimmer of hope.
And then finally, there's this really intriguing revelation that Lethe, the river of forgetfulness, is not actually located in hell. And this little detail has huge implications for Dante's continuing journey.
It sets the stage for the rest of Dante's journey, both geographically and spiritually.
Well, thanks for guiding us through this really complex and thought-provoking landscape.
Of course, it's always a pleasure to talk, Dante.
And to our listeners, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep in mind that even in the darkest depths of hell, there's always a glimmer of hope, a possibility of transcendence. We'll see you on the next deep dive as Dante's journey continues.